Well, howdy everybody. In today's tutorial, we're going to be learning how to drive steam train, any of them, because there's only two, in Derail Valley. It is pretty simple, however, there's some new things that you should know, because there's been a new update, I'd say about a month ago, so yeah, I'm kind of late to it, but this is still helpful for anyone who's just like now starting to play Derail Valley. I recommend the game, it's pretty fun, but for steam trains, there has been some changes, and for regular trains, like diesels, but these trains can be difficult to learn without a tutorial, so I think this tutorial should be pretty helpful. Let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so what you'll need for this is you need to go to a shop and buy yourself an oiler, a shovel, and a lighter. Now, you can get a lantern. I recommend it because the visibility in these steam trains isn't the best. Especially in the S2A2, which we have right here. Especially because it doesn't have a cab light. So, I'd recommend getting a lantern. I can show you how to use the lantern in just a second. So, let's go ahead and get started. All you gotta do to get in is just press F to enter, or you can jump in. To first get us started, something that took me a second because there's like not really any tutorial videos on how to drive steam trains in this new update. It took me a while to realize what was making this loud noise, but when you drive a steam train without the oiler, and I'll show you what the oiler is used for, but if you don't use the oiler and you drive the steam train, there will be an awful screeching noise coming from the wheels, as if you have the brakes on, but at the same time you're going full throttle. Now, the reason for that is you have to go up to here. You will spot about 3, usually there's only 3 of these things. So you'll find 2 very close to each other, and near the back you'll find another one. But yeah, all you really need is to search for these 3 little points, and you just need to fill them up with oil. Now, you will have to do this to the other side. So for example, I'll go ahead and show you. If you don't do this, these won't function as well, and they won't have as much, I don't know, traction pretty much. They kind of lock up easier. Second, you want to locate the lubricator, which is usually on, for both of the steam trains, the S060 and the S2A2, it's on the, if you're inside the cab, it'd be on the right side, but if you're looking at the front, like this, it'd be on the left side, and it'd be right above the wheels, a lot of times right next to the cylinder. You'll see something called a lubricator. You have to hold this down until the little glass thing on the right of the little lubricator box is full. If you don't do that, it'll damage the train. So originally all you had to do was just flip like a little thing like this. Flip that. That's pretty much your air pump, I'm pretty sure. For some reason it's called the compressor. And then you want to search for the other valve. Usually there will be 2. Your compressor, or your air pump, and your dynamo. If you don't switch these on, the train won't work functionally, so you just want to switch them on. For both the S060 and S2A2, for the S2A2 it's right here, and the other one's right over here. For the S060, they'll be located like right above the cylinders on the left of the train if you're inside the cabin, and they're genuinely very close to each other, so you just flip those 2 on. And now that you have all that done, you open up your firebox doors. I'm pretty sure it's a proper name for this, but I like to call them the firebox doors. And you shovel in about 3 things of coal, 3 scoops, and you want to light it. Now, at this point, everything should be right. We're everything should be ready. So you got the lubricator full, you got the air compressor or the air pump or compressor switched on, dynamo switched on, and you've oiled both sides with the oiler. I'm pretty sure this doesn't run out, so you won't have to buy another one. Now, for the lantern, also, whenever you first start up the fire, the coal, you will have to shovel some more in, because it tends to burn very quickly, especially when it hasn't been burning. For lantern, it's pretty simple to use. If you hold down R, you can put it down. I'm gonna put it down right about here. And you wanna, it was like this before, I'm pretty sure, but you have to switch this by scrolling up on the scroll wheel, and then you bring out your lantern or your lighter, light it, and bam, you have a little bit better visibility, especially at nighttime. Sadly, this thing doesn't have a cab light. Yes, it's like open here. However, I feel like the main light is not good enough for visibility, so I prefer get a lantern. It's worth it. Now that the fire is going and it's not burning as fast, you can go ahead and close the firebox doors. And you want to look at this. This is your water tank, pretty much. This level right here shows and demonstrates how much water is in the boiler. The boiler is this thing right here is what surrounds the firebox. That's where a bunch of water is then boiled from the fire, you know, from the coal in the firebox, and then that boiled water turns into steam, which is then used and transport over to the cylinders, which the cylinders use the steam, and then the used steam goes out the smokestack. That's pretty much how a steam train works. But you want to keep shoveling in coal. You don't have to have it all the way up. Like, you don't have to have it maxed out in coal, because like there's a limit on how much coal you can shovel in. You don't have to constantly have it at the max amount of coal, but you want to make sure you have quite a bit of fire temperature here. But with this water, you'll see this, which is the injector. If you like turn it all the way, as you can see, the water is slowly rising. It rises faster in STO60 because it's smaller. But the reason you want water is because if you don't have water, the boiler will start to deform and eventually it will explode due to pressure. And you don't want it to explode, because it's just a nightmare and your train will no longer work. Just have water. Simple as that. All the time. Don't have it all the way full, or else it won't float as well. You could probably look up why steam trains shouldn't have all the water full up, but just leave it at right here whenever you're first starting to move, and then make sure always have an eye out for it whenever you're driving. That's my recommendation. Because I actually accidentally blew up the boiler in this specific steam train before. Because I wasn't focusing on the water for a bit, because I was going up a steep grade in the rain, so I was focusing more on the sander, and I'll demonstrate what the sander does. Now that you have your water about there, you would be pretty much good to go. However, this is your Johnson bar, otherwise known as your reverser. For some reason, it's called cutoff here. But your Johnson bar is pretty much this is using the most steam, but you're going forwards, and this is reverse. This little line is practically neutral, I guess you could say. But when you're first moving, you want it to whichever way you're moving, either forwards or backwards, you want to have it all the way up, because as Heis has put it before, it's practically your first gear, which makes a lot of sense because it is like your first gear. You're using the most steam, and you want to turn off this, which is or take it off, which is your handbrake, If you have that on, you're not going anywhere. Now, with this, you want to slowly engage on the throttle. For a steam train, it's a little bit more sensitive. This is your whistle, by the way. And you'll hear a sloshing noise at the beginning. Don't worry. This lever here is your cylinder cocks. Just bring that back and it'll shoot out some steam. I'm not sure what actually happens because I'm not like that much of an expert on steam trains. All I know is it gets rid of that sloshing sound. Slowly bring the throttle more up. You can take off the cylinder cocks lever in like a little bit once the sloshing goes away. And then slowly bring your Johnson bar back as close to neutral, because if you have it completely maxed out the entire way, you're going to be using a lot of steam. So this is about where I leave it, and then you can go full throttle by the time you're at like 20, 25 kilometers an hour. That's your speedometer right there. Your sander is used whenever it's practically raining. It could be used for other instances, but most of the time when it's raining, because your wheels will have something called wheel slip. Since your train practically sits on the tracks and it's not connected to the tracks, if there's rain, it's like metal sliding against metal. It's like melted ice on a stovetop. And your wheels will slip and you'll have no traction and you'll start to go backwards. Your sander practically delivers sand to the, this right here, I'll get to it. But your sander pretty much gives you more traction because the sand, you know, it gives more traction to the wheels. That's all I can really say about that. Not too complex. Now, these signs right here, you see a 5, a 6, that says 5. I'm going about 60, so I want to slow down. Now I'm going about 40. Those are your speed limits. If you're going past the speed limit, so for instance, this is, you can go 80 kilometers max around here. It's different from cars, because cars' speed limit is more for safety, or as in, if you crash at this speed going this way, it can be very dangerous. Also, it can be different, like school zones. They make you go slower in case of kids walking on the street. Now, that's different when it comes to steam trains. If you're going past the speed limit in a steam train, you're flying off the tracks. You will literally derail, and that's where Derail Valley comes from. So, you want to be very attentive to those signs, and like I said, always have an eye out for your water level. It seems pretty good so far. Now, let's go ahead and go to a full stop so I can focus more. Oh yeah, make sure that, as you can see, I'm too focused. I'm talking, and I have to shovel some coal. Now, when there's no coal, your train isn't going to explode. But it won't generate steam, because, you know, you won't have as much steam. And this right here, speaking of steam, this is your damper. If it's all the way up, in simple terms, if it's all the way up, you're using the max amount of steam. If it's down, it uses less steam. Alright, now that we have the damper out of the way, I'm going to bring that down so I'm not using as much steam. I forgot to turn this off. When it's the train by itself, it doesn't really matter, but whenever it's carrying, like whenever it's hauling something or doing a freight mission, there will be, technical difficulties. There will be this thing right here, the brake cutout. You want to turn that off. Ignore the voice crack. You want to turn that off, and when you do, that allows the brakes to work whenever you have, like for example, when you're hauling carts or trucks or whatever. If you don't have that off, the brakes, the train brake, for example, this is your independent brake. This is used whenever it's the train by itself. As you can see, that's the brake pipe. The red bar is practically the brake pressure. Once it's all the way down, you have no brake pressure, meaning you can go. Now, when it comes to the train brake, that's the brake you use whenever you're hauling stuff. If you don't have this brake cut out, which you can find it near like this general area, in most of the trades. If you don't have this off, your trade brake ain't gonna work. And I found that out the hard way, and it was not nice. Another little thing you can do with Steam trades is you can mess with the windows. Usually there's window wipers, but because this thing doesn't have it, you can open the window doors whenever it's raining, so you can have better visibility. So let's go ahead. Okay, so as you can see, my coal is pretty full. I'm going to bring the dampers down some more. Now, for your last bit of information, I'm going to go ahead and take off the independent brake. These three. Now, this is your bell. This is completely useless in this game. It's more for role playing in a sense, because your bell, or bells on Steam trades, are usually used to alert citizens, people, and even like animals. For example, if there's cattle on the railway, they'll have the bell going. They'll probably be going like 10 miles per hour, or, you know, like 15 kilometers an hour or something like that. And they'll have the bell going, and they'll also blow the whistle. But the bell pretty much alerts people, hey, I'm coming through. If you don't get out of the way, you're getting ran over. In this instance, they have a cattle guard. Pretty much, if a cattle's like gently hit by this thing, it'll be pushed out of the way. I don't know what's going on right here. I usually thought that the cattle guard was usually out more, like it would be right here, but you know what? I'm not even gonna question it. That might be correct. It might not. Who knows? But yeah, that just pushed the cattle out of the way. But for your general working, in a sense, these three right here. This is your bell. This is your blower. The blower pretty much sends more steam out the smokestack, pretty much meaning you can have more, I wouldn't say horsepower, because, you know, it's for, like, cars. But in a sense, yeah, you get more horsepower, or you get more power in general. So if you're going up a steep grade, hauling a bunch of tons worth of stuff, and you can't really get up it, usually you'd bring the Johnson bar, or this thing, all the way up, or not even all the way up, maybe, like, halfway to, like, right here. And you'd have the blower going, so if you turn on the blower, that allows you to bring more smoke out of the smokestack, and that helps you, you know, have more power, pretty much. And for your blowdown is, as you can see, it shoots steam out of the side. Your blowdown is genuinely used whenever you have a lot of water in a boiler, but realistically, in a realistic sense, it actually gets like steam out that has like particles in the steam. For example, water particles or just bad steam in general. They'll use that, so the bad steam is replaced with good steam. It just blows out steam. Usually, you can use this whenever you accidentally fill the water up too much in the boiler. And for your last set of controls, you have, for this steam train, you have the gear light, which lights up your gear. It's more useful at night. It serves no purpose. You don't really need that. However, your headlights are very helpful because without them, you can't see anything. And you want to be able to have very good visibility, which, in fact, when you're doing a hauling mission, it's best to always be at the front of whatever you're hauling so you can see the speed limits and stuff before you already pass them. So that's why you always want to try to figure out which direction you're going. But your headlights, very helpful. This way, this is like your running lights, like your day lights. So you just have this on during the day. You don't have to have them on. This is like midway, so pretty much it's not that bright. And then this is maximum amount of bright. I usually always have it on maximum amount of bright during the night. But the reverse way is just the opposite way. Now, with different trades, for example, the DM3, there's a different set of headlights, but I'm not going to get into that. And for your final task, whenever you're finally coming out of stop, you want to have your independent brake on. You don't have to, but I usually like to have it on. And then you finally go to this lever, which is your coal dump. Now, you only bring this back whenever you're done using the train, like, for sure. it pretty much dumps out all your coal, which, and then in return, pretty much shuts off. That's practically your stop and start, you know, except it doesn't have the start part for a steam train. And then you can finally turn off the dynamo and then the compressor. You don't have to what the you don't have to like mess with the gears or whatever, or even the lubricator. You can just leave that as it is. And then finally, for your last bit of information on steam trains, now this is a bigger steam train, so it has a tender, and on the S060 it doesn't, but on the sides you can check for something known as like your water, pretty much your water fuel, water tank. It'll usually be at the tender, and you can look, as you can see, level. If you run out of water, you're practically doomed. That's why like the S060 can't really get across the entire map by itself. So you'll need like you'll want to conserve water. Don't just have it run the entire time, especially don't have it run the entire time. And then here eventually with this tender, there's actually a lot more coal, but with the S060 you'll realize that it goes down a lot more. This is where you can check your coal level. That's about it. When it comes to steam trains, if you enjoyed this video, which I hope you did, if it's helpful, hopefully it is. I honestly don't know. You can just do whatever. But if you have any other problems, just ask in the comments. If I don't see it right away, hopefully somebody else answers your question. But I'll usually check the comments every so often. Now, if the video is a year old, do not expect me to look at the comments, okay? I'll classify that again. But that's all you really need to know when it comes to the steam trains. If this was helpful, which I hope it was, you can like, you can even subscribe. It's not even that much. You just click a button. But I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll see y'all in the next one.